Thank you. Russell?
Yeah, we'll talk about it then.
I'd like to call to order the Vienna City Council. We're now on item number 3, the resolution approving and authorizing the City of Vienna to engage the Thrasher Group to perform planning and design services for the design of Spencer's Landing Master Planning and Amphitheater Project. I'll entertain a motion. Well, let's go. Resolution approving and authorizing the City of Vienna to engage the Thrasher Group to perform planning and design services for the design of the Spencer's Landing Master Planning and Amphitheater Project. Be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Vienna, based upon the interview and scoring process undertaken by the committee formed to interview potential qualified engineering candidates for the above project, and after careful consideration and review of the attached proposal, that it hereby approves the Thrasher Group, the highest scoring firm, a qualified and credentialed engineering firm, to perform planning and design services related to the City of Vienna Spencer's Landing Master Planning and Amphitheater Project. Further, the mayor or his designee is authorized to execute any agreements or related documentation necessary to engage the Thrasher Group for design services related to the design of the said project. I'll entertain excuse me, Russ, before I ask for that, are we excluding Chris, or are you doing this one?
No, this is, he's on this one, it's the schools, the one with favoring it. He's not participating.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution approving and authorizing the City of Vienna to engage the Thrasher Group.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution. Is there any further discussion?
You want to go?
Sure. I'll just quickly say, I mean, I've read through this and I appreciate that they've taken our feedback. There was definitely a lot of concern when the first contract came out and understanding, the scope of work and what was to be done. I appreciate that they've taken the schedule that I submitted to them and have agreed to that. I think that really helps us kind of define, how soon we can expect this to be done. I think the contract is well written and clear. It involves the community in a lot of different ways, which I think is much better than the first contract that we received was written out. So I'm glad we took a step back and actually negotiated this a little bit better to make a better contract that I think will, in the long term, help the city. I look forward to hopefully seeing this move forward and at the end of this have tangible steps to make some really positive changes on the riverfront here in the city of Vienna.
I'm like Chris. I appreciate that the contract has been, altered. I think for me, it solved a lot of questions that I had about it. And I think it was brought up here tonight. There was confusion about the plans that we had before the CEC park plan, which Spencer's Landing was a small part of that. But what's important about tonight is that this takes us that step forward to have a more formal plan of how we want to have that property developed. Plus, it includes these other parcels, which is discussed in the proposal. But you will get out when they're finished, somewhere, 120 to 150 days. The last part of the deliverable is that you're going to have a cost estimate for the development, okay? And then they're going to give us an idea of how it can be phased. So, to me, I don't believe, you have to know how much something's going to cost and how you're going to plan to do it. And then we have a opportunity to seek grants because this will be formally done. So, I don't, this is a lot different than what the CEC plan was because that's not something, we didn't get cost estimates, we didn't get, that wasn't part of the scope of the work. We didn't get cost estimates and we didn't get any phased work. And so for us to say that we want development on Spencer's Landing, whatever that development is, and I really, really hope that it is community-driven development, okay? Not, just a few people deciding that it's community-driven. But whatever that development is, we have to finish this with Thrasher in order to move forward. And I know people are concerned about the cost. $43,000 was mentioned. Yes, that's how much it costs. If we don't move forward tonight with the Thrasher proposal, then we're basically saying we're not really ready to even consider development. Okay, this is doing is giving us what the developments could be, how much it probably will cost, and a method to phase it to get us to that development, which I think that's all really good. I do like the fact that, for me, I think that Thrasher did a good job with the online survey, and then they're going to have a public meeting, so the public will get a chance to discuss, and they'll, questions and answers and all that stuff. And I think that is so helpful.
I was just say they're also they're also utilizing a QR code that will be able to be posted at various places throughout the city that will use a link to take you to
Right.
the survey that they're putting out.
Right. No, that's fine. But my big caveat here is that when you read through the proposal, the steering committee is very important because they're going to lean into the steering committee to help with the development. So they're going to take, once the survey is completed, they're going to take the survey and they're going to talk to the steering committee, and they're going to move forward with what those concepts are, okay? And we don't know who is on the steering committee, and Chris and I have a resolution tonight to try to get some people on the steering committee for me, and I've said this so many different times, and I'll say it again tonight. For me, Mr. Mancuso needs to be on that steering committee, okay? He's an architect. He's done projects. He knows what he's doing. I think it would be folly for us not to put him on this committee. That's the only thing that gives me any pause about this, because I am interested in moving forward and getting an idea of how much it's going to cost to do development down there that the community wants, okay? So I'm going to support this tonight, but I hope when we get to the next resolution where we're going to consider a steering committee, that we don't try to not table, or that we don't table it, or don't pass it or whatever, that we really be decent about it and put Chris on the steering committee, because he has the most knowledge of anybody on that steering committee. So thank you. That's my comment.
Any further discussion? And I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution approving and authorizing the City of Vienna to engage the Thrasher Group to perform planning and design services for the design of the Spencer's Landing Master Planning and Amphitheater Project, please signify by raising your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Last item on our agenda this evening is item number 4. This is a resolution creating a steering committee for the assistance of programming and designing Spencer's Landing and other associated properties as part of the master plan in the contract agreement performed by Thrasher. I can read the entirety, or we can do it by title.
Good.
Everybody's got it. I'm ready to go by title. All right? So I'll entertain a motion for the resolution creating a steering committee for the assistance of programming and designing Spencer's Landing and other associated properties.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution creating a steering committee. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah. So as Kim mentioned, we felt the need to put this as a resolution to be very open and clear about who is going to be involved on this steering committee. We very clearly want the public to be involved with this. And so we're not trying to leave that to question. This steering committee, as Kim said, is what is going to communicate with Thrasher. And so they will probably be communicating with Thrasher a lot more than us as a council of the whole or the community as a whole. And so I think it is vital to have members of this council on there to be involved with that. I think it is important to have members of the community to be involved with that. And the listed members that are on there, I think all serve a purpose as either employees or folks that are involved with the community. Jack Mathers being the special project manager, that is something that he should be involved with. He should be helping to manage this project. Craig Metz and his knowledge of our sewer and water and power and streets is going to be vital to making good, smart decisions about locating things. Steve Black, as was mentioned earlier, he's the Parks Department head. This will probably and very likely fall under his authority and jurisdiction as these parks are developed. It will very likely be under the Parks Department's authority to maintain and care for these things. So we want to make sure that those that are going to be involved with that in the long range are involved now in the planning process. Lindsay Pearsall, obviously with the Wood County Development Authority, we've engaged with them to help with economic development. I see a lot of these properties being involved with economic development. As Bertie mentioned earlier, tourism is a huge factor in West Virginia's growth and economic growth. I had the opportunity to be down in Fayetteville last week and for Generation West Virginia, and we had a presentation on West Virginia tourism from West Virginia Tourism and from the national park that was created down there, which was very eye-opening to me to see the huge increase in tourism that West Virginia has seen. And so for Vienna to take advantage of that is crucial. And I think Lindsay Pearsall's involvement in that clearly makes sense. I know Mr. Santer has been involved probably since even before I moved back here when this was first a discussion and coming up with ideas, volunteering his time and thoughts and input. And he's been at just about every meeting that I can remember where we've talked about Spencer's Landing or the development there. So I think he is a very valuable resident to be involved with this. The other two positions I have purposely left open. I think that gives an opportunity for other Vienna residents who are interested in this to reach out to us. I think it allows for an openness there and an opportunity for folks that really do want to get involved, that are sitting out in the audience every day or maybe watching at home, to come and be a part of the steering committee. So I think all of those things to say, I think that this is a really great opportunity for this council to move forward with a solid group of people who want to do what's best for the community and keep the community engaged with the development of these properties.
Russ, I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
If I could. So first of all, just from what I've seen in the agreement, I'm not seeing a lot of details on how, I think somebody had earlier asked, can we get some feedback from Thrasher on how they typically form steering committees? But does this committee have to be formed by resolution, or is this just a formality, or what is the proper procedure for this?
Well, I think any procedure is proper. No, obviously there's some that are not going to be proper, but I don't think that you necessarily would need to do it by resolution. I think that you could do it by resolution. I think this is a reasonable way of doing it by resolution. But if the mayor certainly could pick a steering committee if council hasn't put something forth. So I mean, one of the things, and I'll use this as an opportunity to say this so I can sit back and not talk for a little bit. One of the things I've noticed about this is you have 10 spots. If this resolution is approved by council, you may want to consider either adding or subtracting a spot. Only because, as we've seen has happened here, when you have an even number, you can have things get deadlocked, and when things get deadlocked, stuff doesn't get done. So I would suggest 9 or 11. One of the other things I would suggest being aware of is being in violation of the Open Meetings Act. And I say that because while not every entity that works under the city's auspices meets the definition of a governing body, and this one certainly may not, but it could. And I say that because I'm counting Mayor Rapp under this proposal. Jim Leach is a council member, Chris Mancuso is a council member. You're one member short of a quorum. Also, if you were to pick, you also have to keep in mind with the utility board that if you picked individuals that were on the utility board, to also consider that so that you don't inadvertently create a quorum, because if you have those members on here and you create a quorum of either the city council or the utility board, and I think those are particularly important because they authorize the expenditure of funds. They're not just recommending bodies. So you might want to consider that. If you do have a quorum, if four council members, or what is it? We have 5 on the utility board? 5. So if you have 3 utility board members on, same thing. And the mayor's the default vote chair on, or well, the mayor's the mayor, and he's the chair of the utility board. So those are my suggestions in looking at it, is consider having an odd number and consider who your composition is going to be for the to be determined individuals. But other than that, to answer your question, I think that this is an appropriate way. I think that the executive branch could choose could also choose a steering committee. However, I don't think you can have 2 at the same time. You need to pick which way you want to do it.
Okay.
And go with that.
So I get, my next question was about open meetings. So as long as, I mean, because strategically, I mean, you're not going to, I don't think it would be wise to put a quorum of either one of those on, so we wouldn't have
For
that.
clarification,
Yeah.
I'm on the utility board. I do not want to be on this one.
Yeah.
I'm asking, so take me out of it if you're
Yeah.
thinking of it.
So, I mean, whatever that is, I mean, then we, you know, when the committee is formed, we would know whether or not we would have a quorum of those. So we could avoid having a quorum of either of those groups, but.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay, but as long as those are not, does that committee qualify underneath the Open Meetings Act?
The answer to that is it depends. And I say,
Okay.
I hated that. I always hated that when my professors would tell me that in law school. It depends. God, it's the worst, wasn't it? It depends on what you're doing. If this is a governing body that's going to sit together and just pick out things like, I don't know, my kids play Roblox or Minecraft. And so when they're building something, they're picking out little things to put here or there, right? So if you're picking out things and you're discussing those things, I mean, is that something that should happen in the public? Certainly. Is it something that has to? No, because you're not ultimately deciding. As long as council is ultimately deciding, then I don't think that necessarily makes it something that triggers the Open Meetings Act. However, I think if you've gone through all of this trouble to create a steering committee and you're concerned that's an issue, it may just be, for lack of a better term, easier to do it in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. But that's not my decision. The question posed to me is, can it operate outside the Open Meetings Act? I think it is, as long as council is, at least under this, as long as this body, the steering committee, operates with the understanding that council ultimately has to approve everything. They can't obligate themselves. You know, they can't sign contracts. They need to come to council to get permission to do things and things that are binding, things that cost money. Then I think they could operate without triggering the Open Meetings Act. But if you do any of those other things,
Okay, my
need to notice it.
last question then. Okay, so I haven't seen anywhere where it says how many. I mean, I agree it needs to be an odd number, but I haven't seen anywhere where it's saying like,
I looked at 2. It says list of members to be included on the steering committee. It lists 8 named individuals.
in the
9
agreement?
Oh, I'm not talking about, oh, you're talking about the.
I'm talking about in the agreement.
resolution.
Oh, no, I'm not talking about
No,
the
the
resolution.
the
I'm just
agreement
saying
just says
it-
steering committee. What-
Okay, so
what-
that's what I wasn't sure if,
No, they
if
leave
we
it.
can just leave that open to however
Yeah.
many.
However you do it.
I'm really, I am leaning towards not going with this resolution. I think that the executive branch can make the selections, and I think we've heard enough that we need to have, I would be most comfortable with having a majority of citizens versus officials. You know, we need to have somebody from council represented, need to have somebody from utility board represented, you know, and the different department heads and that kind of thing. And in some ways, I also, we would need to, I would want it to be known, obviously, to the public, who the members of the steering committee are. And then, almost like we do here on council, if somebody wants their voice heard, they come to me or they come to you or something, and then they say, hey, why don't you really focus on this, da, da, da. I think we could do that as well with the steering committee. I would be comfortable as long as it's not in violation of anything, and as long as they are directly reporting to us and giving us updates and that kind of thing. I almost like the idea of them being able to kind of hash things out in a closed environment. I mean, heck, I don't care if there's 21 people on the thing, and maybe there's 8 people that are either elected or employed by the city, and the rest of them are citizen members, and then they can hash that stuff out in that environment where it's a safe place to speak out loud, and then they can bring their recommendations to us. And again, they would be, we would want a great variety of people to be represented, and then if we make that list known, then hey, if your neighbor is on the steering committee, then they can keep you updated and let you know what's going on, and then we can give them feedback and say, well, have you ever thought about this? So that's the direction I'm wanting to go. I don't think that the resolution is necessary, and I think it's kind of limiting us at this point to what we can do. I think we can do more than what the resolution is providing.
I just have a couple brief comments. I'm more with Melissa on this, and plus, in the Thrasher proposal, all that they just mentioned, the participation of the steering committee, they've worked with steering committee. I think that we're missing some disciplines on this list that would have input. One of the criteria that we looked at when we were evaluating these engineering firms was the experience with funding, for example. And I think that while, for example, Lindsay and Jack certainly are obligated to the city to assist in those, I think there could be some other avenues. So generally, I agree with Melissa. I think that the steering committee, first of all, needs to be thought about a little bit more. And secondly, I think it's more of an executive function as well.
I also think that each of us could submit a list of people that we would like, whether it's employees or council or whoever. I think each of us should submit a list to the mayor and say, this is who, we would recommend, and even put why and that kind of stuff. And then also make it known that citizens themselves could call in and say, I'll talk to the mayor, I'd like to be considered to be on there. So I think we could make it open in that way. And we're probably going to have a lot of overlap on our lists of people that we're all agreeing on. I think it's, and again, you don't want to get bogged down with too many people on it, but I think we could have like a lot more citizens on it other than what we have here. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I appreciate what you're saying. So Jim talks about missing disciplines. Maybe that's the truth. But I know we're missing diversity, and Lindsay Pearsall's the only woman on this group, and is Lindsay firmed up for this, for being on this group? Did you speak to her?
I haven't spoken with her
Okay,
directly.
so Lindsay
no,
may
but-
not, I'm sorry, what?
No, I haven't spoken with
Okay.
her directly about it.
So we don't know for sure if Lindsay, the only female on this list, is even going to be able to do it. The community has just great interest in this, and has for a long time. Somewhere along the line, last month, or whenever that was, when, we talked about the big amphitheater. And then in this proposal, it talks about an amphitheater, but it doesn't define what an amphitheater is. Ms. Powell showed an amphitheater that was pretty cool. I like that. But when we start talking about a 3,000 to 4,000 seat amphitheater that's covered, lots of concrete, I don't care for that. But what concerns me is that a lot of the same people who wanted the 3,000 to 4,000 foot amphitheater are the people on this list. Okay, so, and if we don't pass a resolution and we just leave it up to just be kind of vague who's going to be on the steering committee, then I don't know that we get the diversity that we need, okay? I'm always going to be somebody who says, let's keep the meetings open so the public can attend and they can understand what's going on. The public, they can't speak in those meetings, they're closed. And while I appreciate what you're saying about being able to hash things out, and I know as a council person, you know, I've called you or we've texted and we've talked about different things. I do the same thing with Chris, or, you know, I did with Mr. Azinger. And so I think, you know, you're kind of used to working in that manner. But when we're in public and we're doing the work for the people, for the citizens of Vienna, that's open. Because this is the first time that we've had riverfront property that we're able to access. So we need to be open and transparent about how that gets developed. So I'm in favor of this. I agree with what Mr. Skogstad said about having an odd number. Obviously, that makes sense. And I do caution against having steering committees that are too large. I was on a board one time with too many people on it, and it was disastrous, and I don't want to see that happen. So I think that we should be transparent about this and get some diversity of opinion on here, and to see how this gets developed, because I think about families a lot, you know, moms and dads and kids. What do they want to see down there? What amenities do they want down there? I care about seniors. I'm a senior myself. I'm trying to get used to that. But what do seniors want? Walking and all that stuff. So if we have people on the steering committee that are really kind of grouped the same in age, I don't think we get the diversity that the community may want, because what I think as a 56-year-old person is not the same thing as you may think. You have teenagers, okay? You know, or people that have small children and stuff. So I think that we need those voices, and we do not have those voices. The same people that we have on all these things, okay? So I would hope that this could be different. And so this is the purpose of this resolution. And just like I said, you know, the one person I do think that needs to be on here is Chris Mancuso, and he could have been put on here at any point in time. And the fact that he wasn't doesn't give me confidence, if this resolution doesn't pass this evening, that he'll be put on the steering committee. So that's where I'm at.
Any further comments?
I'll just make one. If we want to make a motion to amend this to have an odd number of folks, that's totally fine, and I would be happy to do that. I think, as Kim said, we don't want to have 50 people on a steering committee, because then it's a steering crowd. But, you know, if we want to have, you know, 11 or 13 people to include, you know, up to 4 or 5 more residents, I'm perfectly happy to do that. I do think that the steering committee is more going to be a guide and a sounding board for Thrasher and their ideas and stuff. I really don't see the steering committee making major decisions as far as what the plans are. I think all of those would obviously come back to council for approval before going forth. So if that's something that would help people feel more comfortable with this, to include, you know, more residents, I'm certainly happy to do that. The reason that I put 10 on there was it was a solid round number, and like I said, I didn't want to have too many people, because I would love to see it be productive as well, for Thrasher to meet with this group of people and make some informed decisions.
Are you making that amendment, Mr. Mancuso?
Sure.
And which one, 11, 13, or 9?
Are you making that amendment, Mr. Mancuso?
Yeah.
Please state your amendment then.
Okay, so I would move to include 13 members on the steering committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we increase the number on the steering committee to, number again, sir?
13.
13. 13 members. All right. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of increasing the number to 13, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? All right, so your amendment fails. Is there any further discussion? All right, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution creating a steering committee for the assistance of programming and designing Spencer's Landing, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed? Motion fails. All right, that concludes our agenda for this evening. Are there any council comments?
I have a council comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me get my notes here. I actually wrote this comment down. Last weekend, or weekend before last, rather, was the Vienna Family Fun Weekend. And I attended that. I usually try to go to those because they are super fun. And one thing that I just really like about it is that it's an example that we are building community in Vienna. We have another Family Fun Weekend coming up this weekend, and I hope people will come out Friday night at the park. We have a band playing. They have a band playing, and then Saturday, of course, is the fun day for the kids with the foam and the bouncy house and all the free food, and then in the evening, the movie. So these things don't happen without a lot of hard work. Linda Kern, the Parks Department, the Holidays Royalty, the fact that the city, the council, the city supports that. And so I hope everybody goes out to that this weekend because it is a lot of fun. There'll be another one coming up. And the other thing that I enjoyed last weekend, there was the first time that they had nighttime Zumba with the lights. Okay, so I didn't attend that, but the city took pictures of it and they showed it online, and I shared it to my page. That was really, really cool. Okay, to see that pool filled with people, all the lights, people getting exercise. So we're doing a lot of really good stuff, and I just think it's wonderful. So I just wanted to highlight that this evening, and good idea with the lights.
Thanks.
Very good idea.
Thank you.
So to fill in Kim's comment, tomorrow evening from 6 to 9, the FOP, Fraternal Order of Police, is hosting a open swim for all the kids. It's free. They've got free food. They've got all kinds of stuff. And so if you have any kids in your family and they'd like to come to the Jackson Pool from 6 to 9, the FOP will be there, and should be a great event. The Zumba, I was there. Unbelievable crowd, unbelievable enthusiasm. The lights that are in the water are simply amazing. And so, Mrs. Elam, congratulations again for a job well done. I'm telling you, that pool is fabulous.
Thank you.
All right?
Thank you.
So,
We're enjoying it.
any other council comments this evening?
Yeah, I have a comment. I want everybody, when it's nice and daylight, I want you to look at the sidewalk the sidewalk that's in front of Applebee's is on Grand Central, and then the one that's along the big parking lot, in the Kmart parking lot, old one, going up to Taco Bell. And look at how nice and clean it is. So who was it that did it for us?
Public Works.
Yay! I called because my son and I the other day, we went for a long walk down to Lock 4, and there were several places where we had to walk single file because the cinders and that kind of stuff has come over so far onto the sidewalk. And so I sent Mayor Rapp a picture and I said, we need to clear this more. We need to have a full sidewalk open. And he got on it, and the guys went down and cleared it off. So go take a look at it. It looks like a brand new sidewalk now that it's so wide now. So we have so many pedestrians and people that ride their bikes and are walking to work and running and that kind of stuff. It made a big difference to clear the sidewalks. So if you have, something like that that you would like taken care of, call Mayor Rapp. So if you see something like that out and about, call them and let them know, hey, this is just something, can we take care of this? And absolutely, like I didn't call and complain to him that the sidewalks were covered. I called and said, hey, can we do this? And it happened. So everybody look at the nice new sidewalks we have out there.
Roger, next time you have an event, you can sit in lawn chairs. You don't have to stand on the edge of the road. Okay? Anyway, all right. With that, thank you all for coming. Meeting adjourned.